Off the dole and back to work. Hi, I'm John McNeil, and this is the Invest Strong Network. Welcome. Last time I did a vid, I described why I elected not to receive PPP funding from the government for the losses in business due to the CV-19 pandemic for my bed and breakfast. Now, in a similar vein, there was a situation that I confronted about the enhanced unemployment benefits program that ran last year, and I want to brief you on it. Okay, first of all, let me give a bit of background. So, I had worked at a hotel restaurant for the previous 20 years. Now, in fact, most of my adult life has been spent in the hospitality industry, right? Well, the CV-19 pandemic essentially laid waste, as you know, to the hospitality industry. And most of my colleagues and myself were cast out of work, right? So, in the spring of last year, the government launched a program to give $600 weekly to persons who were cast out of work due to the CV-19 pandemic, and certainly that was myself, right, along with my colleagues. So after weeks of wrangling and trying to contact the Texas Workforce Commission, which was the state agency that operates the unemployment program, I was finally able to get on the unemployment rolls, and the enhancements were really very generous. I mean, actually, I made more during this pandemic period than I had ever made in my adult life. That's absolutely true, right? So I was on the dole, so to speak, for the spring and for the summer of 2020. Now, I began to get a little restless. I mean, hey, don't get me wrong. I mean, I love easy money, and I wasn't crazy about having to go back into the workforce in the grips of this cataclysmic pandemic, because obviously that would put me in contact with lots of people, and that would just increase the risk of infection, right? But in August and September of last year, I began putting in apps. Actually, got hired at a big box retailer on a temporary basis and off the unemployment rolls. Right? Okay. Now, funny thing happened. As a temporary employee for this big box retailer, uh, I was not eligible for benefits, and that was a real killer because for my adult life, uh, health benefits, medical insurance was critical, right? And the fact that not only did this job not pay very much, but it did not extend insurance to its temporary and part-time workers was a real downer. But it was something to do. I really enjoyed working with my colleagues. The money was not great, but it was okay, and so I did that for a couple of months. Now, when I left that position in uh, November of 2020, the question was this: do I go back on the unemployment rolls, and this time it's being extended by the Trump administration and the Dems in Congress, and in fact, later on was extended all the way till September of 2021 by the Biden administration and the Dems in Congress? Or do I try to get back into the workforce even as the CV-19 pandemic reached its zenith, right? Well, my decision making went like this. First of all, I really didn't want to go through all the wrangling again, and all of the red tape and trying to get a person on the phone and to work this whole thing out, right? And it's intriguing because the Texas Workforce Commission, they have a website, right? And they encourage you to use the technology, but at some point in the process, they want you to actually call a physical person to get direction. The problem is you call that number and the phone just rings and rings and rings, or it'll busy, there's a busy signal, and it was virtually impossible to get a hold of anyone, right? So that was number one. It was a really big hassle. But also, the reality is I didn't need the money, right? My bed and breakfast was performing well, and my investment portfolio was really soaring through the late summer and fall and winter of last year, and even until today. And I was being paid more than I ever thought I would be. So I really didn't need the unemployment benefits anymore, although technically I was still eligible for them. So I basically wrote it out until I could be fully vaccinated, right? And then spring of this year, actually was able to get my old job back after over a year of laying fallow. The restaurant that I work for reopened. Unbelievable, right? I wasn't sure if it would ever reopen, and so got my old position back full time, and medical benefits are on the way, right? Okay, so I'm just so entirely blessed, and I'm just so happy that it worked out this way, and I'm no longer on the government dole. Now, that is a very important point because what some of my colleagues, right, are doing, and what I hear anecdotally in the nation in general, is that there are persons out there who, as the CV-19 pandemic is waning, they absolutely are electing to ride these unemployment benefits all the way to the bitter end, right? Now, I think that that is a fool's errand for them to do this. And let me tell you why. You see, as human beings, as workers, right? I look at uh, our skills. You should look at your skills almost like a tool, right? And so, like any tool, a screwdriver, a knife, or anything, if it is not sharpened, if it is not kept in good maintenance, it deteriorates, and thus, when it is meant to be used, it is not nearly as effective as it could be, right? Or should be. So I get the feeling that these people who are holding out until the program comes to its natural end in September, if their state government allows them to do that. Now, some state governments are actually putting in restrictions and actually ending the program early, but some are letting it ride out, to the end. But I think that the people who are electing to do that now, they are going to be uh, they're going to be in for a rude awakening when, come the fall of this year, they're no longer receiving any unemployment benefits. Their skills would have basically deteriorated from being out of the workforce for a year and a half, and all of the positions that are being advertised for now will be filled, right? And they're going to be behind the eight ball when they go to look for work, right? And this is something that I was certainly cognizant of, and I don't know if others are or were, but they need to be, right? Because this is real, and I found it even for myself when I went back to work in September of last year. I had to do new things because this was really my first job that was outside of the hospitality industry in my adult life. It took me a while you know, to build up a head of steam and get going with this thing. And then even going back to my old job, there were a lot of adjustments, new things that I had to prepare for, and it took me a little while to get on the same page with everyone, right? And this is after a year. Imagine if you extend that out to a year and a half. Imagine how that'll be, right? I just I would just say if there's anyone out there that's watching this video and they're in the situation where they could go back to work, but they are electing to just basically sit on their bottoms and collect this enhanced unemployment benefit, until it runs out, think again, right? Really, really think again. Think about the long-term consequences of what you're doing and the unexpected things that may happen, consequences that may happen for being out of the labor force for that long, right? And I think when you do that, it may make much more sense to go out there right now and start, looking for work, even if you may be paid less than what you're currently receiving on unemployment. I think the overall value of being back in the workforce will be worth it. And, you may even be able to get your benefits back, right? Health benefits, 401k, retirement, all of these things that unemployment just doesn't pay for, right? So look at the overall compensation package, look at the ancillary benefits of being active and working every day, and also the value that it brings to one's pride and mentality. All of these things are of value and need to be taken into consideration. All right, so those are my thoughts for today. If you found them insightful and encouraging, hit that thumbs up button. Do it. Like always, I love you. Also, leave in the comments your experience, if you've had them, with the unemployment program over the last year and several months. And let me know what your thoughts are going forward. I'd love to know it. I'll respond to every comment. I promise you that. And of course, subscribe. I beg of you to subscribe to Invest Strong. Thank you so much, friends, and good blessings.